I've decided never to train on attitude again. And the reason I do is because yesterday had to have been one of those days in real estate for me. It was just one of those days where I got a call from a irate client. This probably never happened to you, but I got a call from an irate client. I was actually got the first call, and she acted like I should know exactly who she is. And there's a lot of people that we do business with that I don't know exactly who they are, but I think it really, really well until I get to know them. So she started yelling at me, and I said, yes, ma'am, I will take care of it. I'll get right to it. I called the people involved. I thought it was all quieted down. And so then yesterday afternoon, I had a tummy ache. And I said, you know what? I'm not finished with my presentation today, but I'm going to go ahead and go home because I just feel so lousy. So I stopped by the drugstore, and I had you know what it is? Just the ordeal of going to a store these days is like maddening, is it not? You got to find the mask. You got to put it on, and you got to make sure. It's just awful. So I'm halfway down the aisle in the store, so I get another call from the same lady. This time she's more mad than she was the first time I talked to her, and she says, "Well, who am I talking to?" And she came down my throat in a way that was really kind of dangerous. I was right on the brink of saying, there's other agents out there that you can call. I almost did. If it had been my deal, I can promise you I would have done it. But I happen to like my agents a little bit more than I like myself some days. So I tried to curb she said to me at one point, she said, I just don't like your attitude. I said, I didn't tell her that I was training on attitude today. If I had told her, maybe she'd have been more, a little bit kinder with me. But she didn't. And so then I told her, I said, look, I'm in the middle of a store. I got a mask on. It's hard to hear you. It's hard to talk to you. Let me call you back. Blah, 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 blah. So that's how my day went yesterday. So this morning, on the way to work, I put on a white dress. It's nice. Except that I got lipstick on both sides of my white dress. And I didn't turn around. So, that's what happens to you when you really start thinking about this stuff, having a great attitude. And I'm sure every single one of you in this room is a great professional salesman, and your attitude never wavers. So anyway, I just want to talk to you about the winner's attitude. And it's going to take an attitude in this business, this little business that you've started to endeavor in. I can't remember, maybe it was Tina that was going over some stats recently that said the average person was in real estate for 5 years. I actually didn't think it was that long. I thought people got their license and they were in and out of this business in about 18 months. And the reason it is because you just have to put up with a lot of stuff. People think it's something different than it really is. And it just is not an easy business sometimes. It's a simple business, but it's not easy because of the numbers of the people that you're dealing with. I mean, honestly, if you become extremely successful, you're dealing with literally hundreds of personalities every single month. Have you thought about that? You got the agent on the other side of the deal. You got the wife and the husband. You got their children sometimes. I mean, you're dealing with a lot of people. So your attitude matters. But it really is a simple business because in the end, your success will be determined by how many people you talk to with a good attitude, hopefully. But even, let's take the attitude out of it, your success will be determined by how many people you contact and ask, are they interested in buying or selling real estate? It really is a numbers game in that respect of it. And believe me when I tell you, this probably hadn't happened to you, but I've dealt with some agents on the other side of the deal that didn't have a great attitude. It wasn't anybody I know personally, but some of those that are out of the business now. So it really is a simple business. It's a simple business. And so the hardest thing to do is to keep that attitude flowing, that winner's attitude flowing. So, and one of the hardest things about really understanding attitude is that nasty business of self-awareness. Because as I've sat here and I've told you about those other agents on the other side of the deal, you may begin to think that Marti Hampton thinks she's done everything right in this business and everybody else who's been in this business has done it miserably, and that's hardly the fact. As a matter of fact, as I tell Mary many times, is Mary in the room? I love Mary. Mary's my agent. You know, she's a single mom raising 2 kids. She's a great agent, a tremendous agent, and she's passionate. She's emotional, like many of us are, and she can get so down because of something that happens, you know, in a deal that makes her not feel great, and it's easy to do that, and then we swing. We're so hard on each other. We're either too hard on ourselves or we're too easy on ourselves. We're just not in balance when it comes to the self-awareness thing. It's really hard to be self-aware. It's hard when you slip into some of the things that I'm going to talk to you about today. And most of the things that I want to talk to you about today, you're going to say, what in the world does this have anything whatsoever to do with selling homes? But I promise you, when you add it all up, it has everything to do with it. Your attitude, your self-awareness of how you feel internally matters, because how you feel internally comes out in all kinds of ways when you're dealing with people. I'm looking over here at a young nurse that's in the business now. Brooke, you know, did you know what's going to single you out like this? You know, I've been around some people who have had some serious illnesses. And did you know that even doctors will tell you that your attitude matters when you're in the middle of a serious illness? So if it's going to matter, if you're really sick, it certainly matters when you're trying to earn a business, grow a business, and do that kind of thing. So it's self-awareness is kind of like getting it all together, which, by the way, none of us have got it all together. None of us have got it all together. It's like baking a bread, and I know Tyler's a pretty good cook, but the last time he cooked brunch for us, which we do a team thing where we bring lunch on Monday and share with the people that are going to bring it. And the last time he did it, he brought his wife. I don't know whether it was because he was uncertain of his own skills in the kitchen or not, but he did bring her in, and they cooked it. But if you were going to bake bread, imagine you had your bread bowl out here, and you say, okay, bread recipe takes 2 eggs. So you put 2 eggs in the thing, and then it takes 2 cups of flour, so you put some flour in, and then you put some baking soda in, and whatever yeast in, but you don't mix it up. It won't come out well. So my point is, self-awareness is such a huge subject. I feel inadequate to talk to you about it, because you do develop in self-awareness, folks. You do, because you don't want to stay at the same level. You want to grow. You want to attain. You want to know more about yourself, because you want to know what's holding you back. You know, most of the people that I'm looking at right now are, I call you ambitious people, and I think ambition is a really good thing. I don't think it's a bad word, although it's got a bad rap lately, which I don't like that a lot. But I want you to know what holds you back from having the kind of success that you want to have in real estate. So that's one of the reasons I'm talking about those attitudes, those things that are down deep, deep inside of you that you don't think have a thing in the world to do with you selling homes. I promise you they do. What really happens is this is a busy business. Have y'all noticed? It's kind of busy. When you go to work, you got stuff to do. Hopefully you're doing the right things. By the way, that's something within itself. But nobody wants to do the reflection, the inside work that it really takes to be at your best. You know, when I did that thing with top producers, I never will forget Christina Valkenau saying, I want to show up at a high level for both myself and my team members and her customers and her clients. She wants to show up at a high level. I really admired that. So how badly do you want to go to grow? And I think it's a question you should ask yourself. And actually, I have on my desk, if anybody will go and get it, I have the thing that you printed for me, which is the index. Stacey's getting it. It's the index of a book called Think and Grow Rich. And I know, how many of you have read that book in this room? You know, about maybe 30%. It's a really good book. I read it in my 20s. I found myself the single mother of 3 children at about 25 years old, and it was either get on welfare or figure out some way you're going to have to do this thing. And make a living and earn something that was other than meager for those precious little blue eyes that were looking at me, that 3 sets of blue eyes that were looking at me. So I had a desire to really understand and to grow. And I ask you to ask yourself, how badly do you want to grow? How bad? Do you even think that perhaps you don't need to? I think you're pretty good right now. And all of us, it's kind of an oxymoron a lot of times because we're taught to have confidence. And I've seen a lot of trainers say, well, fake it till you make it. And maybe there's some truth to all of that. You got to have confidence to do this business. But you start out, you might make one for everybody in here because I think it's a great summary. It's a great book. You ought to read it. But most of us don't start out with a whole lot of confidence in real estate. I know I didn't, but I had desire, and that's actually one of the chapters. It's actually the first chapter in Think and Grow Rich, and it talks about your desire. And here's the things that can happen to somebody that's got a desire. You're young, you're ambitious, you've got that desire, whatever, and then just life kind of beats you down sometimes. And you get to a plateau of desire. Or maybe you're making X amount that you thought you'd never make, and you plateaued out. You say, man, I'm good. I'm good right where I am. And I would tell you that desire is one of the things that you really need to have. And you always need another mountain to climb. You need another plateau to go to. There's got to be something in your mind that's pushing you forward in life. So I think plateaus are a little bit dangerous when you come very, very satisfied with your accomplishments. Sometimes you have to force feed yourself. There's a funny thing about desire. Have any of you ever been hungry? I mean, literally, maybe you went camping or something, their food wasn't available when you were hungry. Hungry? Okay. Well, consider desire kind of like being hungry. Only did you know that if you go without food for so long, I don't know how many, maybe it's 3 days, I don't know, at some point in time, you're not hungry anymore. And the same thing happens with your desire to achieve. You actually, it's funny because it's right the opposite of your natural hunger is your desire. You've got to have that hunger inside of you, and it works differently. It works differently because when you don't have food, you get hungrier and hungrier. But with desire, if you don't have hunger and desire within you to go to the next level, you just kind of become satisfied with that. You don't have that hunger anymore. So you have to force feed yourself. And what you're going to have to do to force feed yourself, I don't know. What I do is look at the people in my life that I care about. I've heard sayings that have stuck with me. I care about my family. I care about, wanting my grandchildren to have a better life than I have, wanting my children to have a better life than I have. Actually, I really care about this industry and want the next generation. I want EXP to have the next generation of top producers for the Triangle. Y'all? So I got a lot of desire in me. So when you get this mastermind index and everything, and by the way, you can interrupt me if you want to at any time. I'll talk to you about it. But one of the things that is in one of the chapters that's in Think and Grow Rich talks about mastermind, and it talks about collaboration. And of course, that's one of the pillars that EXP is built on. And it's what's made the company, different. It's what's made it caught on fire compared to what I call the old school broken model of real estate, because collaboration, you rub off on the people that you're around, and the people that you're around rub off on you. And I don't know about you, but I want to rub off some people for the better. I want to bring my best game. I want to do the very best I can for them, and I want to hang around with people who bring me up, not bring me down. So mastermind, collaboration, part of EXP. So I just talked about on one side of the page, and I made my team do this one time in a meeting. I said, everything that you do in life is going to be driven by one of the two things. The emotions that you're feeling. Sometimes you're aware of those emotions, and sometimes you're not aware of those emotions. Sometimes those emotions, you need to go to a shrink because they came from your childhood. Believe me, we all carry stuff forward with us. I probably said this to my team before, but there's an actor called Michael Douglas, and he had a father that was also an actor called Kirk Douglas. And Kirk Douglas was actually my even nicer looking than Michael Douglas. But it was so funny because I was watching like a 60-minute special, and this guy's like got to be 90, and so he's crying about something his father did to him, and I'm thinking, man, it's about time we got over that. We moved forward, but those things are hard. That's part of that self-awareness puzzle that you've got to figure out, and we've all got our own puzzle. So I talked about the emotion of not listening. There's people, and when they go into a listening appointment, they want to gush, they want to impress people because they've got just a few minutes, and it's almost like they can't talk loud enough, fast enough. And instead of, I've always taught that listening intently and actively listening is one of the keys to great salesmanship. And when you're actively listening, you're looking them in the eye, you're caring about whether or not you're connecting with them, and you're not wanting to interrupt them between sentences. You know what they're going to say, folks. After a few years in this business, you figured out what they're going to say, but you have to train yourself to really, really listen. And then I talked about the emotion of being satisfied. And then I've already talked about, what you really want. It takes your will to give you a hunger for growth and to really know yourself and how you can move yourself forward. I talked a little bit about boastful. We're in a business that is just so boastful. We're all number one at something. Just ask us. We're number one at this, we're number one at that. And it can work against you when you start believing your own press. Believe it. It can work against you because when you believe your own press, you're on your way out. It's not a good thing. So humility is a little bit out of style, but I think humility is something you got to have to really go to the next level in life. And I don't know how to really explain it. Actually, it'd be great to have some audience participation. Do you know anyone that's really, you would consider has a lot of humility? Tell me an example. When's the last time you were humble? Lord?
Humble or humiliated?
Humble and humiliated got a lot to do with each other, but we're talking about humility, shown humility.
I don't know.
Give me an example of humility. Who have you seen exhibit humility?
Mr. Bennyfield, one of the richest men I've ever known.
Ooh.
And he could have burned a wet mule with his money, but
Say it again.
he could have burned a wet mule with his money, but you would have never known he had a dollar. He treated everybody just like he was just, everything he touched turned to gold, but every person he came in contact with, he made them better.
He made them better.
Yeah.
Which reminds me of a point one of my great agents gave to me, and I'll talk about that. And I can't remember which president it was, but presidents have to go to a lot of events. And I don't know who this president was, but I remember reading about him that he went into meetings as presidents will do. There's like 50 people in line, and that he focused so much on each person that by the time he got to the end of the line, he knew everybody, he knew everybody's name. And that's not only a great memory, but that's a great skill to be that focused and show that much humility, because frankly, a lot of those people may have been, somebody may have been the janitor. It just wasn't that. And when you treat those people with, I get a lot of calls from people who want to rent homes. I sell homes. I don't rent homes. However, I want to give them the grace of being kind to them. And honestly, I don't know as much about the market. The best advice, actually, I'm looking for you right now. What's the best way to show somebody to find all the rental homes that are in the triangle? I'll tell you what I do, but tell me what you do. When somebody calls you, they want to run home. It's from Oak City. That's one company. You know what? I found out about one company is there's like a gazillion of them, and all of them just handle a handful of homes. So what I've been telling them to do, this is awful that I should do this, but I'm going to admit it to you. I've been telling them to go to Zillow, because Zillow has rentals, and at least maybe that's some kind of place. I'll tell you I said that, okay? But you know. So your emotions a lot of times, and the reason I'm bringing this up is because you have to buck those emotions. Your will has to buck your emotions. And even when you get in better place than that, you've put your emotions to accomplish your will. Your will is something you choose. It's something that you're trying to achieve. So you choose it. So I say go with the flow. A lot of people just go with the flow. You've got a great attitude. We got a lot of people in real estate that are just, fun to be with. And they're a lot of fun. They're, what's that saying? If they got any more laid back, they'd be dead. They're laid back. They are easygoing people. We've got some A-type personalities. I've probably got a few A-type personalities in this room, though. But they go with the flow instead of, what you really have to do with your will is you have to get out of your comfort zone if you have another plateau that you have in your mind that you're going to. So that's important. So not going with the flow, just making a conscious decision every day about what it's going to take you to do. I've always been struck with the value of one day. If one day is executed correctly, and you learn how to put more than one of those executed correctly days together, then you got a whole week, and pretty soon you got a month, and then pretty soon you got a stellar kick butt year. So that's what happens. But there's a lot of us, our emotions give us a reason for excuses. I had excuses yesterday that I wasn't 100% of what I should be. I had tummy ache. I was tired. I had some stuff going on. And that was my excuses, and I was full of excuses. And really successful people make a determination to just get it done and not focus on their complaints. They don't focus on their complaints. And then, of course, I see the emotion of, real estate agents are still thought of at a much lower professional level than I would like to see them be elevated to. Some of them, I got to talk about out-of-town realtors because I wouldn't dare talk about triangle realtors with this, but some of them down there at the beach are downright shifty. They're just downright shifty. They just will do things in a kind of a forthright manner. And I don't want people to think that about our profession. So I want you to be always sincere and genuine in your efforts. And then I heard this funny thing about impatience. And would any of you admit right now to being an A-type personality? I got 1, I got 2, I got 3, I got 4, only 6, goodness gracious. I heard impatience described as anger. So I started thinking about that. And I thought, well, my husband is probably the most impatient driver I have ever seen in my whole life. That's the reason I always go separate with him. He is right up on your bumper. He learned how to drive in New Jersey. He is just an obnoxious driver, I just got to tell you. So I'm not quite that obnoxious when it comes to my driving, but the flow is that you've got your life planned so well that you're unhurried. You're not hurried. I heard one time that Jesus never hurried, that he got everything done in 33 years that he was here, and he never had to hurry. So I kind of like that idea. So, but then I want to go to the next thing that Tom Ferry said. Tom Ferry said, inside your head is a scary place. And if we'd admit to it, it wouldn't be as bad as trying to cover it up. And a real big thing that we have to deal with, I know I've dealt with this. I don't know that any of you would. And I got some guys in the room that are probably not as scary as I am, but I've been afraid before. Literally afraid. And the fear, what I want you to understand about fear is that fear draws fear. Whatever you're most fearful of is you're drawing it to you by having that fear. So you've got to learn to overcome fear. And of course, the way to overcome fear is faith. And we can get, that's a big subject, but I'll leave that one where it is. But you have to understand that you have fears. And some of your fears are founded. Do not step out in front of the 18-wheeler truck. Some of your fears, health scares, they're founded. But you've got to deal with fear by faith and not what others think of you. And sometimes I think people are so fearful of what others think of them that they can't be all that they could be because they're too scared they'll get what do you call it when somebody unlikes you on Facebook? I mean, is that not just the worst thing in the world? They unfriend you. To be unfriended on Facebook has got to be like the disgrace of the century. I'm just kidding, of course, I hope. But you can't be controlled by fear. You got to be bold. You got to get problems straight on. There's a saying I heard recently, it is what it is, and there's a lot of controversy about that saying. But the truth of it is reality. There is a reality. And the best way to deal with the problem, and I actually give this one to Rhonda, which is an agent I used to work with, hope to work with her again in the future. Rhonda, if you're listening to this, you're the one that taught me this. Is when something is fearful to you, instead of shirking back, you stand up to it. You push forward. You never draw back from fear. You hit it face on, and life will go better for you, and you'll be in a better position. You want to be bold. You want to hit it straight on. So another emotion is somebody that thinks, I've got some people like this in my family, probably not yours, but mine, that thinks everything's going to go wrong. And when things start going that way, have you ever had like a week or two in real estate when every darn thing in real estate went wrong?
How about a year?
Yeah. When I was in business at Prudential years ago, there was this, at that point in time, ladies had really long fingernails. And I remember walking into the kitchen, and she said, well, I lost this deal that was $400 and something thousand at that time. That was a lot of money. Said, then I lost this other listing that was $600,000. She said, and this happened. I have lost over a $1.1 million in the last 30 days. And while I was zooming past the kitchen, which is the reason I never stayed in the office, is I was always doing something. And I looked at that, my eyes got really big, and I said, that's not the way I'm going to go. I'm not going to think of what's going wrong. I'm going to be ready to pay the price for what I need to happen. I'm going to be, don't focus. How fast you get over stuff is so important. And the younger and the less experienced you are, listen, this business can hand you some mortal wounds. I am walking evidence. There are scars on this person. There are things that have happened that, were very painful for me. And I'm going to tell you a secret. Don't share it with anybody. But one of the most painful things for me, maybe not for you, but one of the most painful things for me is what other agents have done sometimes. And I've had to get over those things and move forward. So the next thing I put on my list about emotions is imagination. Now, there's imagination. There's a kid that never listened to his teacher and looked out the window all the time and was imagining he was playing here and playing there. But I think, thinking big really is an art. I think you ought to take time to think big and what you can accomplish. I've always heard the way to build a life was to build a life that would outlast your own life. Do things that will outlast you. And that's a very valuable thing to have your imagination on. But let your imagination run wild. I think we're taught mediocrity. I really think we're taught that way. I love educating people. I got a daughter that's got a PhD. She can tell you a lot about everything, but she's got the imagination of a flea. I mean, the kid, and I really think it came from higher education. And that's not to say that I don't believe in higher education. I obviously do. I paid a lot for that PhD. But also believe in imagination. I put down your emotions sometimes wants to have a sharp tongue. I'm going to tell you what, my husband is the best comeback artist in the world. I mean, I don't care what it is, he's got to come back for it. He's taught me a few things or two, things I should do, things I shouldn't do. But having a sharp tongue, once that tongue goes out, once that word goes out, you can never take it back. You can't undo that tongue and what you've spoken. So you think it before you speak is the way you want to run your business. And then I mentioned being betrayed, what others say about you. Expect nothing of others and expect everything of yourself. You know, if it's to be, it's up to me. So right thoughts, right actions. You know, your thoughts lead into your attitudes lead into your actions, and they will ultimately be what your career is made of. So I think it's a natural emotion to want to cover over our faults instead of dealing with them. I think an examined life with intention, you know, Tom Ferry wrote a book called Life by Design. So I think when you really have intentions on what you do, what you want to achieve, it's really a much better structure. Because I'm going to go over these quickly, but you know, we'd be crazy if we didn't say there was not some petty jealousness going on in this business. It's going on in other businesses, but somehow in real estate, it's just almost right out there. It's like you can't hide it. And that's because it's such a people business. So petty jealousy, when you notice it in yourself, and don't you dare tell me you haven't had it, because I know you've had some petty jealousy. And when you have it, I think the thing to do is to notice that and to move away from it as much as you possibly can. You spurn that emotion. That is a negative emotion. You don't want to have that. You don't want to have envy. You do want to give others the, whatever you want to call it. You want others to win. You want the other, you know, there's too much of this going on in this business of doing a deal with another agent and then getting on the phone talking to your client telling how the other agent messed up. Listen, we are supposed to have a little bit of a filter. We do have to have a little bit of confidence about our whole industry. And yes, the other agent does mess up sometimes, but do we really have to focus on their mess up in order to make ourselves look bigger? I don't think so. So I would say what happens most of the time in your emotions, you overestimate yourself and you discount others. So then I'm going to go into the next one is an emotion that makes you want to quit. Will any of you in this whole room admit to me that you felt like quitting real estate at some point in your career? I must have everybody that's been in the business for 3 months or less. Has anyone ever felt like quitting?
Yep.
Yes.
And what did you think? What did you say out loud to yourself when you felt like quitting?
I'm not a quitter.
Well, that's a positive thing to say, but I'm asking for the negative thing.
Sorry.
Any of you say, I just don't have to put up with this.
Yep, I'm sure it's it.
I don't have to do this. I
Bullshit.
don't have to put
This
up with
was,
this.
this
Close
was.
good, man. I don't have to do it. When the pressure is on, your decision for persistence is something that has to come from inside of you. And actually, that's another one in the book that you'll get it. I mean, one of these chapters is on persistence. And there's certainly that's going to be needed in your real estate career. And then I got to the next emotion that's just wavering. Any of you have a hard time making a decision?
No.
1, got a bit, 2, 3. Okay, I got 3 people that admit to it. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's an engineer's mindset. They weigh out everything. I wasn't blessed with that. But wavering on everything, at some point in time, you got to make a decision. And making a decision is one of the chapters in this book. And I probably read this book maybe 3 or 4 times in my life. I'm actually going to read it again because it's a quick read. It's a really good read. I go by these little sayings that have meant a lot to me. And one of them is make a decision and then make it right. Don't waver. When you've decided to do something, don't second guess yourself like 14 times. It's not healthy. So, and then I got the next one here that I think happens. It's a grudge holder. Have you ever been well, I'm never gonna shut that neighbor's house again. You ever thought like that? Oh, yeah. I never want her to show one of my houses again. Never gonna do business with that person. Anybody get there ever thought about that? Okay, well, we can't do it. We've actually got to give out better than what we receive sometimes. We actually, it's a conscious decision to give out positive when somebody's giving you negative. It's a conscious decision. So the other person is just a never forgive person. That brings me back to Brooke, because I heard this great thing. You got to try as much as you can to make things right with people. You really got to try to live above where the average person does. And I heard this doctor, it was a quote from a doctor, and he was saying it's worse than all the carcinogenics in the world. It's worse than all the viruses in the world. When you can't forgive, it is worse than anything that can almost happen to you. You have to learn how to forgive. You have to move forward. And then, of course, you got the emotion of just being aimless, undependable. And, of course, the willful response to that is somebody that is responsible. And I'll tell you right now, one of the most responsible things you can do is be a team leader, because then you got somebody to be responsible for. It's in addition to yourself, which is not an easy thing to do. But I got hope for you. You're always growing. You never get to nirvana. Your will is something to control your emotions, is something you're always trying to control. And then, of course, you got the person, the emotions, you're just tossed around by every wind. And I have a saying, is they're about as smart as the last person they talk to. And I've been in many a deal where mama and daddy and brother talked to them, and I had them sitting right there, and then they talked to the brother. Then I got them back online, then they talked to the sister, then they talked to the friend at work. The friend at work knew so much more than everybody else. So being tossed by every wheel, actually in the book, Think and Grow Rich, it talks about auto-suggestion. And talks about who you're around and what you're listening to, and how that's feeding into you. And I've told people that I've been in contact with before, you're listening to the wrong people. You know, you're listening to the wrong voices, and you have to assess those things. So another emotion is easy to do in real estate. Just show up and see whatever happens that day. Wait for the phone to ring. Or you could do a little bit of organized planning. And actually make a tremendous career for yourself. Oh, I love this one. This is the emotion. I know that stuff. I have been there and done that, and I have got the t-shirt. Have y'all heard that emotion? Has anyone ever given you that? Have you ever had that emotion? I'll be honest with you, I've had it. I've had that emotion. Oh, I know about that. And my eyes will roll back in my head. I try not to have it, because I think it's a negative emotion. I think it's negative to think that you've been there, done that, and know everything about everything. Actually, I think some people think that when it comes to EXP. They've been there, done that. The first time EXP was introduced to me, it was by a person that I just, didn't want to listen. So I didn't open myself up. So I think an open mind is a much healthier place to be in than a closed mind. Also, an emotion is sometimes this can make a person hard. It can make them bitter. You can either get older, you can get old and bitter, or you get old and better. You've got a choice on how the things that happen to you affect you. And then, of course, I got the moody person, the swing up and down, or you could be rock solid. I put down emotion is just to be eat up with a trivial task that it takes in real estate. Sometimes we can be so much of a perfectionist that we really don't get the big stuff done. And the big stuff, by the way, is what I said right at the beginning of this, which is your success will be determined on how many conversations you have about real estate, asking people if they're in the market to buy or sell homes. That's how your success will be determined. That's how the number of sales, simple business. It's just hard to keep on track because everything tries to eat up our time. And we always want things to be easy, and we need to challenge ourselves more and to get out of our comfort zone. I think it's been talked about a lot. I said in this one, just let your dreams be bigger than your fears. I'm winding up now. Has anybody got a time check for me?
11:40.
Oh, that is definitely enough time for me to talk. But, you know, I don't want you to ever get to the point where you think you've arrived. In real estate, in life, anything you do, you have never arrived, folks. You just don't know it all yet. I want to tell you right now, Marti Hampton has never done the perfect deal. If I didn't think this business could be done better, if I didn't think there was a product and a way for us to have more value than is perceived currently by the market, I wouldn't be in this business. I keep on striving and looking for ways to help buyers and sellers attain their goals in a better way. And so I believe very strongly on that. So you've got to progress. You can't stay static. Other things is, you know, atrophy, decline happens. You don't even have to work at it. It just happens. Some stuff sinks. but you can go to the gym and strengthen it up. So there's some other things to do. So I put on there that that's really important. And then I talked a little bit again about the hurts and frustrations and the failures that you'll have in real estate. And you've got to recover very, very quickly. As you go through this business, this wonderful business that allows you to become richer than you ever dreamed possible, as you go through it, there will be some bumps. And when those bumps happen, when they first started happening, it will depend on you. I mean, it'll devastate you for maybe a week, maybe longer than that. But as time goes by, you'll learn how to control that emotion of devastation. You'll learn how to move forward quicker. I put down the example, and the quality of the contacts we make daily determines the quality of the leads we generate, which determine the quality of our appointments, which determines the quantity, should be quantity, of your sales. I put good leads, high bad leads. It's a simple business. It's a simple business. You want to make it, you want to be the PhD in real estate. I want you to be a person that talks to a lot of people and ask them, do you want to buy and sell real estate? And learn how to deliver your scripts. You know, it's not only about talking to people. It's not only about prospecting. It's about judging where they are in the process. So you have to learn how to do that. I put down the rules for real estate, which I think are really simple. Go call your leads, set an appointment. Don't care what happens when you call. And then go back to rule number one. It's a simple business, folks. But your choice is to either make some money or wait for the phone to ring. And then I put on my next one, I put something that our coach said yesterday, and that's the reason I believe so strongly in EXP and what we're doing. And I can't remember, Tina can probably tell me, but I think we got 4 or 5 of the top 50 agents in this market. And that's talent pushing talent. And I think when you're around talented people, it can bring out the best in your game. I don't know whether you've ever played sports. Would anybody admit to it? Golf, basketball, football, hockey. Unathletic people. When you're playing sports, if you play with better players, believe me, it'll bring out the best in you. And I think that's what you do. And then, of course, yesterday, as I was having my tummy ache and everything, I called one of my great agents, Desiree, and I said, Desiree, I said, I got to talk about attitude tomorrow. And I said, what's your secret? Because honestly, I had never seen this one, Desiree, and I've never seen Daphne in a bad mood. And Daphne, I was going to call you, but my stomach got too bad, so I didn't call. But Desiree said, I know that I am responsible for the energy that I bring into a room or in any situation. And you are. You're either going to bring it up, you're going to bring it down. It's all up to you. Because the truth of it is you have about as much success as you really want to have. So then you go back to your desire. Do you have enough desire to go to the next level? And then I guess you asked, maybe in closing, is what is success to you? A lot of people in America, this is not my definition, by the way, but a lot of people think, somebody was talking about Michael Jordan one time and said it is Michael Jordan and what success, why he was thinking Michael Jordan was so successful. He said he doesn't have to do anything he doesn't want to do, and he gets to do everything he wants to do. That sounds like a pretty good deal. Well, I think the success to life really is giving. And living a life that is truly about giving your very best to whatever situation you have to be in that day. And that's my secret of success. And that's all I've got. And I thank you so much for coming today.